Today on What's That About, we're very excited to welcome Zion Sherin. Zion is running for City Council this fall, and we're really excited to talk to you, Zion. Thank you for joining us. Why don't we just start off light, and why don't you tell us about your background and you came to Cambridge?
Sure. So I started at community college and I transferred to Cornell University. I got my degree in applied economics and management with a concentration in both finance and entrepreneurship. My junior year of college, I came to visit some friends at Harvard and fell in love with the place. As far as my background goes, I have some good mix between blue collar and white collar jobs. I've worked as an instrument operator at a land surveying company. I also worked in distribution and shipping. And then I have the background with finance, working with budgets, all experience that I think will be really helpful for city council.
Very cool, awesome. So you have a varied background. And what's your favorite part about living in Cambridge? Do you have any special favorite places you like to visit or enjoy?
Yeah. So for me, when it comes to the city, what I love about it is that outside there's lots of green spaces. You can feel like you can connect to nature, and you also have all of the conveniences of a big city. So I can go outside, enjoy a nice day, hang out in green spaces, and then go to the Middle East and have fun. Very combine of different worlds, right? A combination of different worlds. So I really like that we kind of have all of that. We have all the conveniences of a big city while also having that charm of like a small town, which I think is just really rare and unique. As far as like some favorite places, I think Dona Villa is one of my favorites go to for food. And then I recently have been getting back into fitness, so I've been going to Vim recently. I was just there before the call, and if anyone sees me there and wants to say hi, feel free to. Happy to have a quick chat.
Awesome. So what's your favorite neighborhood? Do you have a particular one or?
For neighborhoods, I love them all. I'm not going to play favorites. I live in the port. I do like this area, but I truly do think that all of Cambridge, different areas have different, specialties, and I think the whole city is very great.
It's got a lot of variety, I agree. That's one of my favorite things about Cambridge too. So why don't you tell us why you're running for council? What would be your highest or signature priority issue?
Okay, if for me, I kind of like to break this up into three parts. My highest priority would be changing the zoning. So in February, there was some zoning that was passed. It's called the multifamily housing zoning, and I think there was parts of it that were really good. And then there was parts of it that seemed like they were a little rushed. I've talked to some counselors who voted yes, who said there was parts of it that they feel like certain projects show that their buildings uh, are not necessarily what they had intended for, right? So one of the things that they recognize is 6 stories across the city, that there could be areas where a 6 story wouldn't really fit. And we might be seeing some of those projects proposed. So I think there's a lot of people that would like some corrections. There was also parts of it that I like though. So I want to make sure that we're changing it to keep the best parts of the zoning while changing to adjust. The thing that I would like for my legacy, I think with this new incoming development, there's going to be a lot of wealth. There's going to be people that are going to make millions of dollars from it. And I want to make sure that a portion of that is going to nonprofits so that there's an equitable distribution of the new money that's coming in to really help our nonprofit space. And then my signature kind of platform piece that's I think pretty unique to me is GeoPay. So it stands for geographic pay. It's where first responders get paid more to live in the communities they serve. It's something I feel very strongly about. I have my grandpa Sam was a fire chief in New York City. He has all these stories about living in the communities they serve. They have faster response times. They care more about, serving their neighbors. And firefighters are saving lives. So they care just generally that they save lives, but there is, I feel like, a special little spark when it's your neighbor. And it's something I'd also like to see potentially for teachers, for education, but I would have to have a conversation with the school committee because I know that they run the school system and I want to make sure that we're being really respectful of those separations. So if the school committee would be supportive of it, I'd love to have that conversation once in office.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And maybe you could speak a little more to the housing. I believe there's a project on Ellery Street that you've been kind of involved with advocating around. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So there's actually two. There's one on 60 Ellery and there's one on 84, 86 Ellery. Which of the proposals were you referencing?
I believe it was 60, but you can tell me about both if you like.
Okay. Well, yeah. So 60 Ellery is a project that I believe was built in 1923. It's a brick house. Right now, it's a beautiful building with 4 units, 4 parking spots. It has Ellery Square in the back, which is a property that has the easement rights. And basically, the proposal is to tear it down and to build a new property on it that will be 30 units, no parking spots, 6 stories, and a rooftop hangout spot for people to be able to, go and relax. There's a couple of issues with the project. One of it is that it builds over an easement. So the land surveyor hat on, right? With easements, it's giving rights to other people so that they can access their land, right? So if you need to be able to, come in and out, that's your right to do so. I talked to the developer. I asked them, okay, so what's the plan for the easement? There's not really a clear redirect because they're building on the entire property. So it's not like they're building on one half and can say, can you go on the other half of our property and just avoid the construction? So they said they'd hopefully come up with something. The developer referenced the people in Ellery Square possibly needing to wear hard hats to go under the construction. And that just brings a lot of concern to me. I have family that works in construction. I understand that it's a great industry and that we need to make sure that we're, you know, respectful of the people that work there, but also recognize that not everyone is supposed to be in a construction zone, right? There's people that don't know what to be, I guess what to look out for essentially, because there could be something that falls or whatever that might be. So it was just a big concern that I have. The developer, just generally speaking, hasn't really connected with the residents that are nearby and said, "Hey, like you have a lawyer, so I'm not going to work with you." It's just a lot of complicated scenarios that are going on there. So it's being moved forward. So the proposal right now, I actually shouldn't say it's being moved forward. There has been an agreement that they will go to a subcommittee and make some small changes, and then it will be moving forward. So it's something that I think has some concern of mine, whether it's the fact that the brick is how it is and it doesn't really fit the new community build, or just the fact that there's going to be like a lot more buildings. There's going to be no parking, so people that need, a handicap spot or need to have that accessibility won't be able to have that. So there are just several concerns, and a lot of people in the general area seem to be concerned with the project. So something that I spoke up about, especially the easement, because I think that it's a major safety risk making people go through a construction zone.
Sure. Yeah. You certainly have a multifaceted view of all this kind of with your background, considering all the different players involved in, expanding our housing. So thank you for, expounding upon that for me. Um, Shifting back to how you interact with transportation and getting around the city. So you mentioned you live in the port. Where do you work and how do you get there? And if you commute, would you change anything to make that easier?
Yeah, so for me, I just recently left my job working for a Jewish nonprofit for the last 3 years. I had been working in a primarily remote capacity, so there was no daily commute that I had to
Mhm.
do, which offered a lot of flexibility and convenience in a lot of ways. But just to answer the question more generally, when getting around Cambridge, for the most part, I like to walk. I'm trying to get those steps in every day, if I can. I think it's very healthy, but especially when it's summertime, like to skateboard. It's not necessarily always the best area to do so, but I try to do that. And I do have a car, but for the most part, that's for like larger trips that I have or for runs to the grocery store. So I kind of have a variety of everything. I also sometimes use an electric scooter if I'm going somewhere that like I can't hop on the T for. But it kind of depends where I'm going, right? Different places, different modes.
Okay, got it. So this kind of segues into the topic of cycling. Do you support the cycling safety ordinance and completing the bike lane network? Do you think Vision Zero is possible?
Well, I think it's really important to have safe transportation for everyone. And for me, I don't bike very often, but my girlfriend bikes. She's a very strong believer in biking, and I want to make sure that it's safe for everyone. I do have some concerns about the ordinance. One of them being the budgeting process behind it. For me, I feel like whenever you're voting on something, bringing it forward, it should be really clear how much it's going to cost. This isn't just about, bike lanes. This is about generally speaking. The city shouldn't be moving forward on things before they have a real understanding of how much it's going to cost. And so I do think that it's important. As far as Vision Zero, making sure that nobody dies, is it realistic that there's going to be no traffic deaths? In terms of like my lifetime, I don't think so. In terms of a year, I think that's absolutely a possible goal. And that should be what we're striving for. So I think we should be looking at data. I think something that stands out to me is safer intersections. We have a lot of issues there and we should be addressing those. And even though I don't know if, it's possible, it definitely should be our goal.
Okay, got it. Um, what about housing? So obviously that's a very fraught issue. Lately the council has passed a lot of housing ordinances, from upzoning to the affordable housing overlay, removing parking minimums, allowing ADUs. Do you approve of these changes en masse, or kind of what are your additional thoughts on all these housing ordinances and laws that we've put into place so far in Cambridge?
Well, I personally am a very strong supporter of ADUs. I think that if somebody has a garage that they want to change and make it a place where their parent can stay or their child can stay, and they want to make sure that they're close to home, I think that's great. And I really don't think anyone should be stopping that, including zoning laws. I think that's really important that we add those housing units to our community. As far as something like parking minimums go, I do think that the 1-to-1 ratio that we had was problematic. But I also think that the removal had issues that people didn't necessarily fully think out. One of the issues being, if there's a parking lot, there needs to be a handicap spot. And or if it's of a certain size, right, for these bigger developments. And by removing the parking minimum, it also removes the requirement to have a handicap spot. I unfortunately recently had my mother pass of cancer. She was in a 2.5-year battle, and the last 8 months of her life, she was completely wheelchair bound. And before that, for a quite larger portion of that, she was walker assistance needed for transportation. And my mom never complained. She was a very strong woman, but she wanted to still live her life. So she wanted to go places, spend time with her kids, spend time with family, still live as long as she was here. And her question wasn't, okay, the event that you guys are doing, where is it? What is it? Because she just wanted to spend time with us. But it was questions about, is it accessible? Is it somewhere that I'll be able to get dropped off, and all of those concerns. And I'm worried about these new developments that they're not going to have a handicap spot. Is my internet coming in, Shopee? Or am I good?
I heard all of it, yes.
Okay,
So I
perfect.
think it,
Uh, Yeah, there was a little buffer on my end. So that's something that I'm concerned about, and I think those are some of the effects that weren't fully thought out. When it comes to affordable housing, for the most part, I'm very supportive of it. We have over, I think it's 116 Norfolk. It's right outside our kitchen window. There was a project that went from, I think it was 20 something units to 60 plus units, and it really fits the community. I think it was a great ad. It's right in our, I guess you could say, our backyard, and it's seems to be doing a lot, right? There's people that are there, and I think those sort of projects I'm really supportive of. When it comes to the overlay as a whole, the reason that it was passed, they said they wanted it to go taller so that nonprofits could afford to buy it and compete price point wise with market rate housing. I think Mark McGovern's the one who said that when he was one of the strong advocates for it. I think that the new zoning, it kind of takes away that benefit, because now everyone's allowed to build that tall. So market rate development is going to buy those properties that could have been bought by nonprofits trying to do affordable housing, and now they're going to buy it and have for-profit buildings, market rate buildings. And I think one of the saving graces, though, is that there's a 20% affordable component for all of those developments. I think it's over 9 units, 10,000 square feet, or over 4 stories. But I know there's a movement to decrease that. So I looked at other cities and how they're dealing with it right now. The race in Boston, Mayor Wu, she's very supportive of keeping it at that 20%. Josh Kraft supports bringing it down to 13%. I'm a true believer that in order to justify this, we need to keep it at that 20%, and moving it down would really hurt the overall mission of having like more affordable housing. So for me, it's not just the zoning, it's also what the impact is going to have. And is the impact really going to create affordable housing for young people that are trying to find a home? Is it going to create accessible housing for people that are trying to stay living in Cambridge and have different mobility needs? So I think that we need to see things holistically. And I'm worried a little bit about the current zoning, that it didn't really have all of those effects considered.
Okay, interesting. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, and I appreciate, you know, the story about your mother. I'm sorry for your loss, and yeah, it is important to think about accessibility. So that's definitely, you know, part of Cambridge's ethos, right? Equity, inclusion. So yeah, that's an important point you make there. And I guess we're going to transition now to the economy, right? We're living in a pretty uncertain economic environment. We've got a lot of White House interference. Commercial revenue is likely to decrease. Decrease international students here. Decrease tourism. To ameliorate that, would you support increased taxes and fees, for example, an increased parking fee, to support your goals, or do you feel the budget should shrink? And if so, what would you cut?
Yeah, so, well, I wish that increase in parking permit costs would be able to offset the issues that we're going to be facing. But I think even if we doubled it, it wouldn't start to put a dent in how much we're really going to be facing. The current administration has made Cambridge one of their targets. They've made education a target as a whole. I would say it wouldn't be an over exaggeration to say that Harvard is target number one out of all of those institutions as well. So I think we're in a very unique, tough time that's going to be possibly in the next 3 years even, and hopefully after 3 years we have a change, and then things go back to normal, but we have to be planning for the next 3 years to be pretty tough as far as where to cut different programs. Cambridge has a little bit, I guess, of a non-traditional setup where we have the city manager who is unelected but runs, proposes the budget, right? And then city councilors vote in favor or not in favor of it. For me personally, I would be having conversations with that. There are areas that I wouldn't want to see cut when it comes to especially something like a program, say, I think we need to be collecting needles from parks, right? If they wanted to cut that, that'd be something that would be a non-negotiable. We need to make sure that we're having a safe city that's being run properly. But as far as the actual cuts, I do think that it's more the city manager bringing a proposal, and I'd have a conversation with the city manager to have, understand what the rationale is and advocate for things that I think are important, but we don't really have the power to go in and directly do it.
Sure. Okay. What would you do to improve the quality of life in this city? Any ideas, especially from a cultural standpoint, to increase the arts or music spaces, performance venues, anything like that?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to start that we have a very clean city. I think that, trash on a sidewalk, whether it's putting in more trash cans so that we have better trash collection, or running the city where we have better snow removal, right? Especially like in bike lanes where that's also a safety risk. I think those help your quality of life, because if you're biking and you slip and fall and now you're, walking around with a limp for the next couple of weeks, that's not good quality of life. And then as far as the more cultural side, and I think overall quality of life, is really supporting those nonprofits. I think nonprofits, whether they run an after school daycare program, or they just earlier this month, I was volunteering at the Multicultural Arts Center, and they had an event that was a cultural event with some music and dancing. And I think it just really like ties community together. And I'm a strong believer that if you want a strong city, you need strong nonprofits, and that they really can help facilitate that. So when it comes to city, I think the best way to do it is to really support our nonprofits.
So you mentioned Multicultural Center. Any other favorites out there in the nonprofit world?
I mean, I have a lot, and I'm not going to take favorites, just
Okay,
like the
sure.
neighborhood. So far, the ones that I engage with, I really like. We had the I mean, we're having a lot of our events at nonprofits. I had my kickoff event. We're overall just trying to really support the nonprofit space. So I don't think that I have like a favorite tier ranking, just because I don't also think that's the most helpful. But I do think overall there's a lot of nonprofits that are really going to help in different ways, right? Some of them help in more day-to-day operations, some of them help more in performances, making sure that we keep our culture. And I think that they all need support. So I prefer not to state favorites, but I think that there's a lot of them that I like.
That's okay. I'll just shout out CCTV, but I have to, right?
Oh,
Um,
that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
how would you address all the vacant storefronts in the city, especially in Central and Harvard Square?
So I think that vacant storefronts are a pretty big issue in Cambridge. I think that storefronts that are vacant for a long period of time, a vacancy tax would be appropriate. I would want to make sure that it's long enough so that, say, there's a business that moves out, the store owner isn't freaking out, day one that, oh, we got to get somebody in tomorrow. But we should not be having properties that are vacant for years. So I think that it would be appropriate for us to see that. And then I'd like to see the money that is brought in through this new vacancy tax directly supporting small businesses, Cambridge-based small businesses. So that would make it so that small businesses are more likely to stay, more likely to rent out those spaces. And then it would kind of be an incentive on both ends. So that I think would kind of help to solve our problem. I know it doesn't fully fix it, but it would be a major step in the right direction.
Okay. And if you were on the council this past session, who would you have voted for mayor and why?
So this is a little bit hard because if I was on the council, I don't know like who would be interested in taking on the responsibility and also like all of the details. I feel like if I'm elected, I'll be able to give a little bit better, but a little bit better of an explanation. But something that I will say what I would have done then and what I will do if elected is I would reach out to the school committee and ask their opinion because how it works with us for our mayor is the mayor is also chairing the school committee. And so for us, the mayor essentially chairs the city council, right? So we get to pick ours, but the school committee doesn't get to pick theirs. So it wouldn't make my entire decision just based off of their recommendation, but it's something that I would really take into consideration is who do you think you want to be involved in your organization? And I mean, they're independently elected, right? And then we're picking the person that chairs their org, so or their committee. So I would want to make sure that we're talking to whoever is elected. So I know they have a very competitive race right now. I think there's 18 people running for 6 seats. But once that election's figured out, if I'm elected, that's one of the first things I'll do is be reaching out to all six and ask them their opinions.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, is there anything else you wish I'd asked you or that you'd want to talk about or that you wish we'd covered?
Well, I think it was great. Thank you for your time. I watch a lot of your different, I think that you call them episodes, right? So I watch them frequently, and I appreciate the offer to be on. Something that I would just like to share with your viewers is something that's really important to me is accessibility when it comes to reaching out to your representatives. I've heard so many people say, I want someone that I can talk to, share my issues with. So the first thing I did when I launched my platform was I have a little bar that says meet with me. So it's a calendar where you can directly link or book a time, right? And it's 30 minutes, either call. If I can, I try to meet them in person. It's now that campaign's picking up, it's getting harder to go from one spot to the other. But it's one of my promises that if I'm elected, it will be the same amount of time. I have 2 days a week for 4 hour slots that I make available. Once elected, it will be either in my office or over the phone. And I think that it just is really important that we have that accessibility to your representatives. So we have it up there. We get so many people reaching out. Welcome anyone to look up my website. It's zionforcambridge.com. And just if you're interested in a specific niche, just book a time and I'm happy to chat with people. And I think that's a little bit unique. And I just want to share that with the viewers.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we very much appreciate you making yourself accessible to us. Appreciate your time. And good luck in your race. And this was Zion Sherin. And this is What's That About? Thank you, Zion, for joining us, and take care.
Thank you very much.